Hey everyone, Joe here. Just wanted to give you a quick update on where I'm at with working on the demo for Infiniwar. I initially recorded a bunch of talking about the menu screen or the main menu, and that seems kind of like a boring way to start. So instead of doing that, I'm just gonna hit the play button. We're in testing mode, and we're just gonna go straight into it. Now we're here on the planning view, and you're gonna see a scene in the background that I've been developing. So this scene is, it's dynamic, so it is generating the terrain, and it's generating some of this sort of battlefield ambiance that you can see, the smoke and the tracer fire and things like that. I'm not entirely sure why the smoke is sort of starting off dead and then rising. I think I need to do some kind of like VFX pre-warming or something like that. But anyway, so this view is just going to kind of rotate around this carrier strike group, and the idea here is that this is kind of like your home base, if you will. It's where you go to between battles when you need to sort of rest and rearm and recuperate and plan your next move. It's a little bit akin to like going back to town in an RPG, or going to the shop in a roguelike. It's just somewhere to go that's like between the main things, the battles. So there's just some camera movement to make the backdrop interesting, and then the idea here is that you're going to be deciding what forces to bring into the next battle. You're going to be deciding things about the next battle that you're going to be taking part in. A little bit about the different sort of bits of UI here. Most of it's collapsed right now. You've got the menu, and obviously we can go back or go to settings. We can turn the music up if we want. There's some music playing on this view, but I figured that'd be annoying for the edit, so I turned that down. And then we can go back to the main menu. Not a lot going on there yet. And then you have in the upper left corner, this is your tactical assets, and I'm realizing that I haven't really explained much of the UI yet, so that's fine. I'll get into that in a minute. And on the right, you have your reinforcements menu. If you've played World in Conflict before, these are going to be very familiar. They're kind of positioned in the same place where that stuff would be in World in Conflict. And then there's this new icon up here that is just a planning mode icon. And this is sort of starting to be the area where you're going to make decisions about the battle that you go into next. So this is the battle planning menu, and there's not a lot going on in there yet. So this is all kind of very temporary. Don't get too attached to where anything is or what is in it or what it's doing, because it's all going to change. Don't write any of this down. It's all going to change next week. So the idea here is between battles, you can, and I don't have any units in here yet, so I'm going to cheat a little bit. And let's say I had, these are debugging menus that you're not gonna, this one in particular anyway, that you're not gonna have direct access to, but because I am the all-powerful developer, I can do that. So let's say I have some, maybe a helicopter and maybe a transport and maybe a tank or something like that. So the idea here is that you're gonna have sort of a roster inventory of different units, and they'll have different capabilities. These are just some basic units that don't have anything super special, but you'll be able to decide based on what battle you're going into next, which units you want to bring. And right now for debugging purposes, I just have a whole bunch of slots that can have any kind of unit that I like in them, but eventually there's going to be some restrictions of how many of which type of units you can bring, and all kinds of different stuff there. So you can kind of decide what you want to bring and configure it that way. And then the same thing on what are called the tactical assets, or internally I could just call them powers, but tactical assets sounds more thematic, I guess. So these are going to be like airstrikes, artillery strikes. These are the tactical, I think they're called tactical aids, in World in Conflict. I just renamed them to tactical assets because I wanted to, I guess. So yeah, let's see. We've got maybe like a land unit delivery, some precision naval bombardment, high-speed bombing run. I don't know why it's named that. Yeah, stealth bombing run. This is just all the current kinds of powers that are in the game, since this is the debug menu. Anyway, so in the player's inventory here, I've got a couple of different options, and again, I'm sort of deciding, okay, maybe based on what mission I'm going into, I'm deciding which things I want to slot from my available pool, and this is the sort of least developed area right now. Again, in these roll buttons here, this is just for me, just as a developer, but you're going to have a selection of different battle plans that you can go to next. And these are going to have different, different requirements, different objectives, different aspects to them that maybe make them unique, like where they're located, what sort of conditions they have applied to them. My plan is to get kind of funky here, kind of spicy, although not a whole lot of that is shown right now. So if we roll a few of these here, this is again sort of more debugging functionality. And these are all temporary modifiers that are probably going to get totally reworked, so don't get attached to any of these either. But there's going to be different aspects to a battle in terms of like what the objectives are and how the battle is going to play out. And my plan is that these are going to be a big influence on like what sorts of units you'll want to bring, what sorts of powers you'll want to bring. Yeah, so that is just kind of the very, very basics of planning mode. And right now it is kind of limited. One of the systems that I have hidden is the resource system. I'll probably go into the resource system a little more later on, but it's going to play a very big role in how you actually get and populate these different units and your battle plans and what's on them, units here and powers here, I guess I should say. And that's going to be where more of the like long-term economy of the game lives, is in the resource system. So you fight some battles, you're going to be getting different kinds of resources in those battles. Lots of RTS games have resources, but one of the things that's a little bit different about what I'm planning here is that usually the resources in an RTS battle are the only thing that you care about in that battle. You need to build up the resources so you can build the units, you can build the base and destroy your enemies, and then the resources go away and you start over in the next battle. I'm going to kind of turn that on its head a little bit with Infiniwar, and instead you're going to be acquiring a lot of resources that you generally won't be using directly in a battle. Maybe, we'll see. I've got some ideas there, but the main reason you're going to be gathering these resources is so that you can spend them between battles to unlock new units, upgrade your units, unlock new powers and upgrade your powers, make modifications to battle plans, and a couple of other ideas that I've got there, but I'm not quite ready to talk about them. A lot of this stuff is sort of partially implemented, but I've got the UI turned off because it's not going to be in the initial versions of the demo. So one of the things I've been doing right now is kind of locking things down more and turning off systems that are partially implemented or that I'm still working on, and getting things ready for someone to play without all those systems kind of cluttering things and confusing things. And I can give you just a really quick tour of what's going on with the main menu. There's a profile system. This is basically just a save game system. You can make as many as you like. Each one is going to be, a save file saved on your computer and then hopefully eventually like saved in Steam Cloud or something like that. So quick battle, the idea there is instead of the roguelike progression resource system where there's multiple battles and you sort of have to progress and unlock things as you go, the idea there would be sort of like a shuffle mode, if you will, where you just get a random selection of units, a random selection of powers, and a random selection of possible battle plans, and you just pick what you want of that roster and try to win. And then each time you roll a quick battle, it's going to be something wacky, something new, something just different. At least that's the idea. And at some point, I may do a version of that that's like a battle of the day, which I think would be kind of cool, where it's the same battle every time or the same options every time for that whole day. So if you don't win the battle, you can maybe try again. Maybe I'll do that with quick battle too. I'm not sure. But the big idea behind it would be battle of the day would be somehow seeded based on like the day, the time of day, or something like that, or something like that. I'm not sure. So that everybody could try the same battle, or maybe a battle of the week might be a better option. But the idea there being that there's just sort of like a regular cadence of every day or every week, let's say, there's a new random seed, and everybody gets the same seed for that day or that week, whatever it is. That's kind of a future plan. Maybe I'll cut that, I don't know. Career mode is what I'm calling the procedural campaign roguelike mode. And initially the button was just labeled campaign, but I thought, I don't want to confuse people. I don't want people to think that there's a campaign mode, because what that means to a lot of people in a game like this is a scripted campaign with, voice acting and characters and a story and all that stuff. And I'm not going to be doing that. I've talked about that in the past. So this mode is the mode where the procedural systems, the roguelike systems, the resource systems are going to be bringing you through a series of battles. Yeah, so it's going to make for a procedural roguelike campaign, but it's not going to be a campaign in the traditional sense. So anyway, that was kind of a long-winded explanation why I don't want to call it campaign mode. So I'm calling it career mode. If anybody can think of a better name, I'd be all for that. I also thought of calling it maybe operations or something like that. So we'll see. That name may change. We've got tutorial here. Oh, you can notice, of course, these buttons are all disabled. Again, I'm sort of locking things down for preparation for a demo build of the game. In the future, there aren't any. I haven't made any tutorials yet, but in the future there'd be tutorials here, and I've got some ideas there. Initially, there'd probably be just a single tutorial mission that you just kind of get used to how the camera works, how to make some units, and maybe that's it. Eventually, maybe I'll come up with multiple tutorial maps or multiple tutorial lessons, if you will, and those would walk the player through maybe what's different and unique about this game. I'm kind of leaning towards tutorials still being procedurally based, which is maybe a little bit risky because normally you want to kind of tightly control, exactly what's going on in the tutorial, so that the player, that you know what the player is going to run into or not run into. But that would take probably a lot of time and effort because I'm not building any of those same tools for a normal campaign, so I'd have to build them just for the tutorials, which seems like a bad investment. So I want to try to see if I can make procedural tutorials work in some way or another. Or who knows, maybe I'll just throw my hands up and say, you know what, the tutorials are non-interactive, it's links to videos or something, where I do a walkthrough of the different features, or maybe community stuff, who knows. Anyway, enough about tutorials because that's a ways off. The testing tab. So this is kind of getting into how I want to start delivering the demo. And I guess demo is kind of a strange word for it because it's not going to be initially a demo of the full game because I am still building that. But I do want to do playtesting of different parts that are ready to go, or at least ready to start getting looked at by other people. And so what I'm thinking about doing here is with testing, the very first thing that you'll be able to do is generate terrain. Maybe you'll be able to pick a biome or something and just generate a random map, fly around it with the camera, look around, see if anything breaks, see if anything generates super wonky. But that would be the very first thing that I'd be looking to test with playtesters. And then after that is, in reasonably good shape, move on to, maybe the basics of like, unit spawning and unit control and capturing territory and things like that. And then eventually, of course, live fire exercises with the enemy AI, and then moving into all of the other systems, resources and whatnot. So that's the plan anyway. And I've probably mentioned this in the past, but initially my plan with the early builds, the testing builds, is to make them available to channel members, probably at first, maybe some friends and family, before there's any kind of just publicly accessible demo. A quick shout out to all of my channel members: General Goman Snana, Commissioned Officers Triegs Black Tiger, Esposito Adam, and Ryan Grill, and NCOs ALX 2079 and Lisa Parrott. Thank you all so much for sticking with me for all of this time. And just another minor little announcement. I got my first payout from YouTube, so I guess I'm a real YouTuber now. Hit the payout threshold. You have to have at least $100 banked for them to send you any kind of money. So finally got over that particular threshold, and that means that the channel members have effectively paid for the Steam fee for the game, which is really cool. So thank you all for pitching in and really making a difference in terms of the development cost of the game. And I'm looking forward to, maybe figuring out, other ways that we can spend upcoming member funds, whether that's, voice acting or tools or models or something like that. Like I wanna try to tie what you all are providing to, specific assets and things that are going into the game, because I think that's a fun way to do things. That'll be all from me. Don't forget to wishlist Infiniwar on Steam, and thanks for sticking with me to the end of the video.